Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're trying to give you a shortcut, really, to understanding maybe the biggest story of our time. We're not just talking about AI as tech, but as this force that just reshapes everything. Because, well, if you're anything like us, you're just constantly seeing headlines about generative AI. It's easy to feel like we're in totally uncharted waters, kind of unpredictable.
It really is that feeling of exceptionalism, right?
Yeah.
Every generation thinks, wow, our challenges are completely unique.
Hmm.
But, the sources we look at today, they offer this really powerful perspective. They remind us history doesn't repeat itself exactly, but it definitely rhymes.
Mhm.
And here's the thing that should really grab you. Each verse of that rhyme, the gap between these huge systemic revolutions, it's getting shorter, much shorter.
Yeah, and that's our mission today. We're taking this big panoramic view, stepping way back from the daily hype cycle, the product launches. We want to look at AI as a complex, adaptive system. We're digging back centuries, really, starting with the plow, looking for that consistent pattern, that kind of choreography of revolution. The thinking is if we can actually see the pattern, maybe we can steer things better.
Exactly. And that framework is just vital. Our sources trace this line, like you said, from the plow straight through to the processor. And they show how these new systems, they always extend some human ability, but they also introduce this delayed, often kind of invisible systemic cost.
Yeah.
We're trying to pinpoint that common mindset,
Right.
the recurring blind spot that seems to cause the trouble each time.
Okay, so let's start with the first big one in this pattern. Way before processors, before steam engines, we had that huge shift from being nomadic to settling down. The agricultural revolution, what was the core deal there, the main trade-off?
Well, the essence was really re-engineering our whole relationship with the natural world. We domesticated plants, animals, and the massive gain, the upside, was a predictable food supply. That's huge. It allowed people to settle, specialize. We basically extended the human hand right into nature's processes.
Okay, but the cost, the hidden part, the blind spot, it wasn't obvious right away, I guess.
Not at all. The mindset shift was the key. We started seeing soil, water as these infinitely available resources just there for the taking for the first time, really. That short-term gain, like a bigger harvest that year, it unleashed this long-term cost. Things like monoculture farming, planting the same thing over and over, soil depletion, water stress. It laid the groundwork for what later got called the tragedy of the commons, where local gains just ignored the bigger ecological picture. The system got really productive, yeah, but also incredibly brittle, vulnerable.
Okay, fast forward thousands of years. The second major shift, the Industrial Revolution. This time it's about energy, labor, extending human muscle with machines.
Right, this was the era of the science of simplification, as some sources call it, breaking down complex work into tiny, repeatable steps. Powered by steam, then electricity, the immediate gain, just breathtaking efficiency, mass production, goods moving globally. We basically optimized society for throughput, for scale.
But the societal cost, the stuff pushed off the balance sheet, the externalities, huge. We often forget how immediate the human impact was.
Oh, it was catastrophic for communities, absolutely. And the physical cost, you couldn't ignore it. Think about something specific like the Great Smog in London, 1952.
Yeah.
A single event where that systemic cost, that unregulated industrial pollution, it literally killed thousands of people. We traded clean air, stable communities for factory output, all based on this blind spot belief that the atmosphere could just absorb infinite waste.
Which brings us closer to home, the digital revolution. No more steam, now it's networks. Not simplifying physical tasks, but rewiring how information moves, extending human memory, communication.
Exactly. Productivity shot up again. Billions connected. Fantastic, right? But the cost this time, much more psychological, structural even. The blind spot here was subtle. It was acting as if attention was an infinite resource, which led straight to the commodification of our attention through, invisible algorithms.
Right. And we saw concrete examples of the fallout.
Absolutely. Think about the Cambridge Analytica scandal. That showed exactly how these network effects, optimized purely for engagement, could directly lead to massive polarization, even manipulating democratic processes.
So the rhyme seems pretty clear then. Extend a human faculty hand, muscle, memory communication, get a big gain food, goods connection, and at the same time create this systemic cost depletion, pollution, polarization, all stemming from some initial flawed assumption or mental model.
That's the pattern the sources lay out pretty consistently.
Okay, so let's pivot, bring it to now. If the past was about extending the hand, the muscle, what exactly is artificial intelligence automating? What's it extending?
This time, it's cognition itself. The actual process of complex thought. See, the Industrial Revolution automated physical labor. It required us to control the machines. This revolution, it's automating analysis, prediction, creativity, even decision-making. We're going beyond just faster calculations into genuinely automated thinking.
Okay, automating thought. That distinction feels massive. And that's why the sources are arguing this time isn't just faster, it's fundamentally different because of this recursive property.
That's the crux of it. It's this self-amplifying feedback loop. It's accelerating itself. One source put it so starkly it really sticks with you. Nukes don't make stronger nukes, but AI makes stronger AI.
Wow.
Yeah, for the very first time, the engine driving the technological progress is internal to the technology itself. It's feeding on its own advancements, creating this exponential acceleration.
Which slams us right into the core problem for society, the velocity gap. Our governments, our laws, our social norms, they were all built for a world of linear incremental change that moves at, human speed, discussion speed.
Exactly. And now, the systems we built for the age of the steam engine are facing the speed of the synapse, literally. AI doesn't do linear. It does exponential dynamics. Every time a large language model gets better, that improvement immediately fuels the next generation breakthroughs. The difference in speed is just staggering. Look, think about the printing press. Revolutionary tech, right? Took 50 years to reach 10 million people.
50 years. Okay, pause there. 50 years for the printing press. What's the number for today's shift?
ChatGPT hit 10 million users in less than a week. Yeah. So those adaptation windows, the centuries, the decade past generations had to sort of figure things out, absorb the changes. They've collapsed into news cycles, basically. With the time we have to understand the side effects, the externalities, and actually regulate this stuff. It's shrinking exponentially.
Yeah.
While the power of the tech grows exponentially. That's the heart of the tension right now.
Yeah.
But here's the fascinating part. Even with that breakneck speed, the underlying choreography, this systemic pattern of change, it stays remarkably the same. The sources show this universal arc. Every revolution kicks off with excitement, exhilaration.
Sure, the hype phase.
Right. Then it inevitably hits deep disruption, major upheaval.
Right.
And only after that does it settle into some kind of stable transformation.
Let's nail down those 3 stages, because it feels like we're deep in the disruption part right now.
Definitely feels like it. Stage 1 is displacement and fear. We see it everywhere. New tech threatening old jobs, established ways of doing things, even creative fields, lots of anxiety. Stage 2 is the messy part, reorganization. This is where whole sectors think content creation, maybe parts of legal work start to wobble or consolidate really fast. But at the same time, totally new sectors pop up. AI ethics, prompt engineering, model maintenance, new roles born from the disruption.
Okay, and the final stage, after the chaos.
Stage 3 is integration. A new equilibrium eventually forms. Things settle down into a new normal. But crucially, the sources warn. This new equilibrium always comes with new, often unseen externalities. New costs that only really become clear years, maybe decades down the line, just like we didn't immediately grasp the full ecological cost of the plow or the atmospheric cost of the factory chimney.
And that pattern always seems to involve trading something vital for what looks like progress at the time. Like 19th century, we traded clean rivers and air for industrial output. What's the equivalent trade-off potentially on the table now?
The big risk flagged in the sources. Trading our cognitive autonomy for convenience. Think about it. There's immense pressure and, frankly, temptation to offload basic thinking tasks. Information filtering, analysis, maybe even important decisions, let the AI do it. It's faster, easier, cheaper, right? That reliance, that drive to optimize purely for ease, that's the potential 21st century trade-off we need to watch very carefully.
Which means we can't just focus on the shiny apps, the chatbots, the stuff we see. That's just the tip of the iceberg. The real danger is hidden.
Exactly right. Below the surface, that's where the deep structures are. The opaque incentive systems deciding how data flows. The massive energy needed to power these models. And maybe most importantly, our own fundamental models about what progress even means. If society just optimizes for efficiency, for speed, which is what AI excels at, we risk just repeating the same blind spots, the ones that gave us pollution, that gave us polarization. What starts as frictionless convenience can easily morph into mandatory dependency. And we really cannot afford to become dependent on systems we don't fully understand or ultimately control.
Okay, that really clarifies the stakes. So if the danger is this recursive intelligence possibly leading to dependency, what's the response? For us, for you listening. How do we navigate this? It seems like the answer has to be, recursive responsibility. Like, we need to cultivate wisdom as fast as the algorithms are getting smarter.
That's precisely the challenge laid out. History suggests that if we actually want to lead this revolution,
Mm.
not just be swept along by it, we have to rapidly build up the mental toolkit needed for exponential change. We need to grab the steering wheel before the car accelerates beyond our ability to even react.
And the sources get specific here. They outline 4 cognitive lenses, like 4 essential habits of mind for anyone trying to make sense of this world. Let's break down these laws of navigation.
Okay, first up is systems thinking. This is the skill of seeing the whole picture, mapping the complex interconnections. It means you don't just see the chatbot app. You see the data pipelines feeding it, the energy grid powering it, the feedback loops that train it and shape its output. For governing AI, for instance, it means understanding that tweaking one thing, like access to certain data, will have ripple effects everywhere, on security, the economy, fairness. You got to see the whole map, not just one intersection.
Second is emotional intelligence. Okay, why is something so human critical when we're talking about technology?
Because massive disruption erodes trust and empathy. It just does. When jobs vanish, when communication feels increasingly mediated or even faked, like, can you trust that voice on the phone anymore? Social bonds fray. Emotional intelligence becomes the crucial resource for maintaining human connection, for ensuring we keep empathy and ethical considerations front and center as we design the new rules, the new social contracts.
Okay, third lens, strategic foresight. This sounds like fortune telling, but I guess it's more practical than that, especially when things change so fast.
It's not about crystal balls, no. It's about anticipation. It's the discipline of mapping out alternative possible futures, thinking several steps ahead before one of those futures just crashes down on us. So, for example, foresight makes us ask, okay, AI can make perfect deepfakes today. What's the next likely capability? And how do we start building social or technical authentication systems now to counter it? It forces action based on possibility, not just reacting to what's already happened.
And that leads right into the fourth lens, doesn't it? Anticipatory governance. How's that different from just passing laws after something bad happens?
It's the shift from reactive to proactive. It's the absolute necessity of acting before the crises fully bloom and spiral out of control. It means regulating the inputs, the design process, the very architecture of these systems now, instead of waiting until the negative consequences are baked in, like, lead in paint or carbon dioxide in the air. A concrete example right now, maybe mandating transparent provenance tracking for all major AI models used commercially, making transparency a requirement from the start, not an optional add-on later.
It keeps coming back to this idea that history shows technology itself doesn't decide our fate. Our mindsets do. Agricultural revolution driven by scarcity, industrial by control, digital by connection.
Exactly. And this one, the cognitive revolution we're in right now, the sources argue it must be guided by consciousness, meaning a deliberate, deep, and recursive awareness of how interconnected everything is, and awareness of the systemic costs we are actively choosing or not choosing to build into our future. We simply have to get better at cultivating wisdom, maybe even faster than we're getting better at cultivating algorithms.
Hashtag Shaq outro.
So, looking back across these centuries, the pattern really teaches humility, doesn't it? No era got the huge benefits of these shifts without also dealing with the costs, intended or not. But maybe by seeing this rhyme early, by understanding the choreography, the fear, the messy reorganization, the eventual integration, maybe we actually gain a chance to nudge the trajectory this time. We can maybe design AI not just as this runaway engine of pure efficiency, but more like a sophisticated mirror, something that reflects our deepest shared values back at us.
That's the hope, I think. And the ultimate synthesis here is really this. The question isn't if AI will change everything. It already is changing everything. That debate's over. The real critical question for you, for all of us to wrestle with as we navigate this, is whether we, humanity, will change ourselves quickly enough to actually steer it. Because the biggest revolution underway might not be the technological one. It might be the one happening inside our own heads, cognitive and profoundly human.